good morning, but my September resolution is to say good afternoon because 12 o'clock noon is not morning time. I'm glad that you've joined us for our midday devotional. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Throughout the week, we have studied and we've talked about as our devotional topic for the week addictions. And today I would like for us to focus on the treatment of addictions. Now, typically at the end of each devotional, I will give you a biblical reference. Today, I'm going to give you a biblical reference at the beginning of our devotional. In the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, beginning at verse number 23, the Apostle Paul writes to the Corinthians who are still living in serious addictions, addictions of having an unloving spirit, addictions of not being able to fellowship properly with each other. Uh, all types of things are going on. Addictions of not respecting headship, not respecting God as the director of their lives. They have a lot of things going on. But in 1 Corinthians 11:28, Paul says, "But let a man examine himself." That's always the best starting point for any type treatment for addictions, any type addictions, is for a person to examine themselves. But my question to you is this: what if they choose not to? What happens if a person chooses not to examine themselves and everybody around them know they have addictions? Well, that's where we have to get into the treatment and how do we approach it. Uh, Treatment, according to the American Heritage Dictionary, is the act or the manner or the method of dealing with someone or something. And it's always better for that act and that manner or the method to actually honestly come from the crowd of the individual who has the addiction. A good treatment will take into consideration the specific setting the individual finds himself or herself in, the specific behaviors, uh, in order to construct a plan with a projected outcome. Uh, See, if a person is addicted to gambling, you don't need a treatment plan to take them to Alcoholics Anonymous. So the specific setting has to address the specific behaviors, and you have to construct a specific plan with a projected outcome for what is going on in the person's life. Uh, I think what I'm trying to get you to see is in treating addictions, there is no such thing as one size fits all. And for church people, this is very important to hear because sometimes we get stuck in the mindset that the same approach, the same methodology is all that we need to move people from addictions into recovery. Uh, it's not that simple. Sometimes people say, well, all they need is the Lord. Well, yeah, they need the Lord, but we need the Lord properly applied to the specific addiction that an individual is going through. Let me give you just two or three illustrations of that. Nicodemus had a problem, and he comes to Jesus by night. And Jesus approaches Nicodemus completely different than he will approach Zacchaeus, who has another problem. Zacchaeus has a problem, we call it the little man complex. His problem was he could not see Jesus because he was so short and Jesus was moving through a crowd. So the way Jesus handles Nicodemus and the way Jesus handles Zacchaeus is completely different. Let me give you another one. We talk so much about the Samaritan woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well. Well, Jesus did not treat the Samaritan woman at the well the way he treated the woman who had the issue of blood. See, each person has complications, but Jesus did not have one size fit all, but they all needed Jesus. Christians must learn, yes, what we need is the Lord, what we need is God. But you know what Christians must learn is how to rightly apply and how to rightly adapt the approach for the specific person and the specific complaint that's going on in their lives in the moment. The method for treating addictions are determined by multiple factors such as disposition, the specific addiction, and the availability of consistency of the selected modality. In other words, if you're going to put something in motion to help a person, then be prepared to spend the energy and the time to make sure you are with the person and you're there to follow up. You are there to mentor. You're there to coach them in that modality of treatment that might be helpful to them. So many times we bring people to an understanding of something and then we abandon them. With addiction recovery, once the person's awareness is elevated to where they know they need help and they are willing to comply to the modality of help laid out for them, that's not the time to abandon them and to leave them on their own. That is the time the support system, the encouragement system, the accountability system really is to kick into play in order to facilitate the nurturing of the individual through and away from the addictive behavior. When we talk about intervention into the addiction in order to treat it, intervention is the initial challenge of the addicted person's substance addictions or their process addictions. Remember earlier we defined substance as things of chemical nature or alcohol or tobacco, things of that nature. But process addictions, we're talking about gambling, all types of sins of that nature, lying, sexual addictions, behavioral type things. But the initial challenge is always, how do we intervene? How do we infuse ourselves into this person's space in order to let them know we're here for you, but you need help. The purpose of intervention is actually to force the addicted individual to assess what they are going to lose. If they do not get help for themselves, this is what you're going to lose. Now, Even in teaching people the gospel of Jesus Christ and encouraging people to leave a world of chaos and come into the peace that passes all understanding, is to encourage, yes, but there's a force behind that. And the force is, if you don't, this is what you're running the risk of losing. Uh, and that list has to be very concrete. And that list has to be very directly delivered to the individual. Intervention can originate from a self-assessment of the individual who's locked into the addiction. That refers back to the 1 Corinthians 11:28 text, where the person examines themselves. Or the intervention can originate from the criminal justice system. Uh, Let me tell you a quick story about that. Over 30 years ago, I worked with the judicial system in another state, and there was a preacher, to be quite honest with you, that the courts had ordered to spend time in counseling with me, with the son who was in juvenile detention. And the son was released from juvenile detention back into the custody and care of the family, with the condition they sought therapy. Now remember, I said this was a court order. Well, the father was so busy doing church work that at the scheduled appointment time, he decided, forget it. I simply called the court, talked to the judge, let them know that they didn't show up. And the judge sent a sheriff's car to the house, picked the father up, locked him up overnight. As soon as the father was released from the county jail, what would you guess he did? He called me. And he says, look, I'd like to reschedule that appointment. And I rescheduled. And guess what do you think he did? He showed up. That's what I mean. The intervention sometimes has to come from the judicial system. Or the intervention can originate from the employers. I could tell you a story about that, where the courts had ordered anger management. But no, that was a different case. That was a different case. Strike that. The job had ordered alcohol treatment. That's what it was. The job had ordered, if you don't get some treatment for this alcohol problem, we're going to terminate you from your job. And it was a good paying job in another state. So the person didn't decide to get the alcohol addiction treatment because they woke up one morning and decided, oh, you know what, I'm an alcoholic and I've got some problems. It wasn't driven by the judicial system, not this one. It was their job, who thought enough of them to say, hey, look, you're a good employee. We like you. We like your family. And we don't want you to lose your job. But we'll tell you this in no uncertain terms. If you do not get treatment for your alcohol problem, you will lose your job. Well, guess what the individual did? They called and they set up the treatment program. That was intervention. Another way that intervention takes place is from family and friends. This is the most challenging of all intervention. It's the most difficult one to pull off because that close family center uh, has to be involved and on board to modify the behavior uh, of the person. If it's a family of a husband, wife, children, aunts, uncles, uh, the more of those people you can have on board, the better. Because if that person who has the addiction senses any breach in that family system, they're going to move toward the family who's more empathetic toward them. And they're going to say to the rest of the people, the heck with you. I don't need you because I've got this person. That's true with almost any type of addictive behavior. You name it, when people are resistant, they will look for somebody within that family constellation to become their ally. And they will fight and fight and fight, not by themselves, but with that family ally against the other family members who really, really want the addictive behavior extinguished. Uh, it is the most challenging thing. It's challenging in church. But when people are walking disorderly, they will align with other Christians that are going to defend them. And it is very difficult then to deal with the one person because now you've got other Christians in the way. Now, in the Old Testament, the way God handled that is if God was trying to move people away from unhealthy behaviors uh, and people got in the way, God would zap them in order for him to deal with the people that he was really trying to correct. So in the Old Testament, God's message was, do not interfere with intervention. In the New Testament, the same is true. People should never interfere, never, when a disorderly, ungodly, sinfully acting Christian is trying to be corrected. It's for the betterment of the whole family. So with other addictive behaviors, drugs, alcohols, gambling, sex, whatever, here's what we do in the psychological community. If a family member is not on board and they see that in that intervention meeting, they're going to be crying and defending the person with the addiction, we just tell them don't come. We do not need a person in that intervention meeting that's going to rescue the person from their chaos. So when we're doing professional intervention, we have to first do an evaluation, a screening of those who are going to participate, the family members, the friends. Who are the people that are going to stand in a loving manner, in a manner that says, we want the best for you. We are rooting for you. But unless you get the help you need in whatever that addictive behavior is, you're going to lose your family. We're not going to stand for it anymore. That could be with a person who is squandering money. That could be with a person who's irresponsible in the family. Intervention is very, very key. And at the same time, we have to concede there are some people who are so deeply enveloped in their addictions, they may tell everybody to just go jump in the lake. And whenever that happens, then you have to turn them over to God and let God deal with them. Uh, that's hard to do many times because then what you're doing is telling them, we still love you. but we can no longer support you in your addiction. And that's when the hard work begins to say to that person, you cannot stay here anymore. How do we treat it? Well, it has to be treated before it can get better. But receiving addiction treatment can be painful. Painful for everybody involved, the addicted person and those who are trying to help them. It can be very humbling because in treating the addicted person, many times the family system finds some shortcomings within the whole family constellation. It can have a degree of shamefulness in it for others to find out that this person had this addiction, or to find out that my family member that everybody thought was so upright is struggling with this addiction. It can be confrontational. Uh, it, all addictive interventions are not just, wow, that was easy. Many of them are in your face. And sometimes the addicted person will get loud and get defensive, and they'll start blowing smoke. And you know what their intent is? Is to get you to back away. And the person or the people who are intervening must at that time take courage. Say, no, we're not backing down. You can scream and yell all you can walk out the door, but when you walk out this time, the locks will be changed. See, it can be confrontational. Let me tell you a story about when I was doing my internship on my master's degree. I did it in a treatment center at a hospital. And in that treatment center, it was an inpatient treatment center to where the people were typically in the program 28 days locked up. They could not leave at night. They could not go to work. They could not go to school. It was a 28-day lock-in treatment center. One man was there because the courts had sent him there. And we were in the group session one day, and this guy was screaming and yelling and cussing and got out of his chair and threw it across the room and I'll just leave this blah, blah, blah place. The director of the program said, if you walk out the door, that's your prerogative. But understand, when you walk out that door, we're calling the sheriff's department. He walked out, and about 30 seconds later, guess who walked back in? He did. Because he figured out the director called his bluff. Now, I was doing the intern program, residency program, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sitting there like, man, they're going to fight. And when the guy walked out the door, the director said, he'll be back. And sure enough, 30 seconds or a minute later, he came back. But it can be confrontational, it can be combustible, it can be emotional, but it can be liberating because it lets the family know, it lets the job environment know, it lets the church know that we can function. We hate that the person is resisting, but we can function without the person because now we don't have all of the dysfunction going on. It can be liberating in a positive way that says now to the person, you know, this was confrontational, this was shameful, but it really helped to set me free. And I'm glad now that you guys pushed me to get the help I need because now the person feels empowered without the addiction. They feel refreshed without the addictive behavior. And whenever that happens, it quietens their spirit. I hope, trust, and pray that as we continue in this lesson series on addictions, that if it is not applicable to you, maybe you know someone that can benefit from the things that we're talking about today. And if it can benefit those that you know, family, friends, church members, neighbors, then the midday devotional has been well worth the time. I'm going to ask you to pray with me, if you would. Father, we thank you for family. We thank you for friends. We thank you for colleagues who care enough about us to challenge us in those areas that they can see we are addicted in a negative fashion. And Father, I pray that even for our country, those who really see the struggles that families are going through, whether it's through this COVID-19 or whether it's through the political turmoil that we find ourselves in, I pray to you that you will intervene. And as you intervene, Father, I pray that we will move out of your way and let you confront the sins and let you confront the diseases in a manner that you know will cause this world to be a better place. Father, I pray that you will watch over our first line responders who are putting themselves at risk every day to make life better for us. And for those who are dealing with grief, we pray that you comfort them. Use us, Father, as instruments of your choosing. And I pray that as you use us, your name will be glorified and magnified even more. Through Jesus I pray. Amen. Again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us each day for our midday devotional. Be sure to join us tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. for the devotional singing and at 7:30 p.m. for our midweek Bible study. If you have an opportunity today, read the 8th chapter of the book of Acts in its entirety, because that will be the basis from which we do our Bible class tonight. I look forward to seeing you tonight at 7:30, and if not, I look forward to seeing you back in our midday devotional on tomorrow.
Oh, don't forget the family prayer. And I know Jesus, yes, will be there. Oh, when we all get together. Don't forget to do no. You know prayer will sail across the ocean. I know it will. Prayer will bring your wandering son back home. Sure enough it will. I know prayer will help you love your enemy. Sure enough it will. I know prayer will teach you right from wrong. Yeah, Lord have mercy this evening. Family prayer. I know my Jesus. I know the Lord will. Yes, He will. He meets you right there. When we all get together. Don't forget family prayer. Listen. I know prayer will. Oh, yeah. Sail across the ocean. and go. Oh, yes, it will. I know the prayer will. Oh, yeah. Help you in time of trouble. Oh, yes, it will. I know prayer will. Prayer will. Give you strength. Yes, it will. Oh, don't you know? Yeah. Lord, have mercy this evening. Family prayer. I know the Lord will meet you right there. Oh, when we all got together. Yeah. Forget all our family prayer. Come on, Robert. You know prayer will help you in a time of sorrow. Oh, yes, it will. Oh, prayer. I know prayer will bring peace into your home. Sure enough, it will. Oh, yes, it will.